The Great One's Journey by the Liar Who Lies Chapter 4. Raiders and Pillagers, The Last Stand. Before Rimuru could walk in, however, a man in armor came out. "Hey Orly, welcome back." Johnson was a member of the port town's guards. He was orphaned since a very young age and spent his younger days here in the orphanage along with his friends. Among them was the now caretaker Orly. "Johnson, what a surprise to see you." Though she said that, he was able to detect her distress. He looked over to the kids. The younger ones were puffy-eyed while the older ones were bowing their heads dejectedly. He saw the troublemaker Jack have a dark look on his face, standing next to a cloaked stranger. "What's going on?" "Well, you see," after listening to the explanation, that being them trying to steal from the stranger alongside them, the guard became angry at the children. "How could you do this? Why are you being so reckless? Do you realize the consequences of your actions?" Hearing Johnson babble on about how wrong they were and how they should behave made Jack so angry that he lashed out. "If you were doing your job correctly, then none of this would have happened." That shut the guard up. "Do you even know that those damned morgue moths have been stealing money from the orphanage? That some of us haven't even eaten for days?" He took a step back, before turning his gaze to the sister, who looked away. "We couldn't tell you because they'd threatened to burn the orphanage and kidnap and sell off the kids if we told on them to the guards." Tears dropped from the sister's eyes as she hid them with her hands and started shaking. "We had no other choice. The gang had too many backings. We could only give them what they asked." It was true. While the gang was very notorious in their area, they were backed up by higher powers. The types not even the town mayor could go after. Johnson clenched his teeth. He had failed to notice. He had failed to help them. The whole reason he joined the garrison in the first place was to protect the orphanage. If he couldn't even do that, then he was just nothing but a failure. Suddenly, screams could be heard from the port. Everyone looked over to see some foreign ships baying. The sounds of shouts and battle could be heard from here. "Shit, pirates." As the vice captain of one of the garrison's squads, he had to move. He turned over to the orphanage members. "I'm sorry I wasn't there for any of you when you needed me. After I come back, I will try to rectify for my absence and help you the best I can." He then turned towards Jack and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You were right, Jack. I'm sorry for yelling at you. I am a failure for not being able to protect you guys." Jack wiped the tears coming out of his eyes. "No, it wasn't your fault. You were just looking out for us, sorry." Johnson turned towards the cloaked woman. "Ma'am, I apologize, but I had to ask you to please wait until I return before sorting out your problem." The woman fortunately nodded. She smiled and said, "All right. I'll hold you to it." After giving his thanks, he quickly ran to the commotion. Meanwhile, in Rimuru's mind, things are starting to get hectic. "Huh, Seal. Agreed. You think the moth somethings have anything to do with this?" "Morgue moths. That is most probable." He had been itching for some action. Of course, he wouldn't even use a millionth of his power. That would be too easy. Instead, he would use human-level swordsmanship to fight his way through. And what better way to start with the Baldy from earlier? "Hey Baldy, remember me?" Goran was running with some members to help aid pirates when he suddenly heard someone shout. He looked over to see across from him. In front of the orphanage was the blue-haired bitch from earlier. He grinned and signaled his mates to follow him. Well, I knew you couldn't resist me." He decided he would capture her in the middle of the commotion and have fun with her later. "In your dreams? I'd sooner pack a pig than I do to you," she replied with a smirk. "Why, you," he snarled. "What are you doing? Have you gone mad?" Jack screamed at the crazy lady. The woman ignored him and just grasped her weird-looking curved staff like a sword. "Get her, boys!" The boy saw the men charged at her, trying to grab onto her, and heard multiple things snap. Og! The men fell into a heap. They grasped onto their arms, each bending in an unnatural angle. It was clear that they had their bones broken. What? Was what crossed everyone's minds. The woman suddenly moved her stick to the heap, and once again snaps could be heard. "Ah! My leg!" The unknown woman disabled and immobilized the assholes who had been crowing on their front door for some time, just like that. All it took was 2 seconds. "You're next, Baldy." The woman smirked and launched herself over. Goran felt pain he had never felt before. All the joints to his limbs snapped and he couldn't stop screaming until he was knocked in the head, lying unconscious. Didn't know you were a screamer, Rimuru chuckled. That was a terrible joke, master. Oh, come on, you've made worse jokes, he retorted. The reason he didn't kill these fools on the spot was because there were children watching. Now, hear him out. He might be an extra-dimensional class demon, but he was once also a teacher. His teacher's heart didn't let him set a bad example to little kids. Jack saw the woman suddenly run towards the port. He was so amazed by her that he knew he had to watch more. So, using his shadowfoot, he tailed behind her without getting spotted by the attackers. Jack! Wait am. He heard Sister Orly's voice get smaller the further he ran. Along the way, he saw the stranger disable the attackers in a similar fashion. No more than 3 attacks wasted on a single enemy every time. Jack finally realized just how packed he was the moment he tried to cross her. Ah, shit. I'm soon dead. Even though he said that, he still followed behind her like a duckling to a parent. Johnson blocked an attack coming from the side with his axe. Watch your sides and backs, men. He, along with his troops, were currently counter-attacking the pirates along with helping the survivors. The wooden buildings on the port were catching on fire and were quickly spreading. The only way to explain this phenomenon was that there was a mage or a skill user among the attackers. The situation was really grim. Among the guards, only the captain had a skill, and the port town couldn't procure enough money to hire a mage. Suddenly, a cone of fire burst from the wooden platforms connecting the ships. Ha 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 ha. Burn, burn. Well, at least they found where the perpetrator was. Johnson's squad dwindled until they were finally outnumbered and surrounded. Ha, ha. Well, boys, it's been an honor serving with you. It's the same with us, Vice Captain. He thought about his promises he couldn't fulfill, including the ones he made just earlier today. In the end, he really was a failure. Well, if he was going to die, he would die with dignity, fighting with his brothers in arms. He just hoped the town won and the orphanage stayed unharmed. He led another war cry, which was joined with the others, and charged at the attackers. But suddenly, he heard bones breaking, not from his side, but from theirs. From the other side he saw the same woman he met earlier at the orphanage absolutely hammering down on the attackers. Not even 10 seconds and a third surrounding them had already fallen. Snapping out of his surprise, he realized that they might just come out of this alive. With new vigor, he ordered another charge. Rimuru kept bashing and attacking until he ran to the docks. There, he saw the pyromaniac responsible for the fire. Run along now, lady. Unless you want to taste my fire, the man with the red mohawk threatened. Oh, please. You call this a fire? My cigar lighter could do better, taunted the demon lord. The man laughed. Who? So you're approaching me? Instead of running away, you're coming right at Bo. The Fire Lord? I can't beat the shit out of you without getting closer, moron. Rimuru walked relaxedly. Oh ho. Then come as close as you like, bitch.